But anyway,
Did you want me to introduce it?
It's like, someone's always watching, but who
Can you talk a little softer
really
in my ear?
is watching? Ooh. Oh, I know. I'm one of them. But I mean, who's watching you? And who drives by? And who's walking out the doors? And who's the eyewitness? And who is really telling the truth?
Then
In the end,
to try the escape.
God is
But
always
before
watching.
the escape plan could be
God
activated,
loves.
Oh,
God
Gordievsky
understands.
escape of the KGB.
God
communicated
gives
in Moscow that he needed
to
help.
those that deserve
Hiding in the toilet of the Lenin Museum, he scribbled
what
a
it is
one-line
and what
note.
it means the most.
I am under
Passionate
strong
love,
suspicion
passionate,
and
faithful
in
to
bad
love.
I
trouble.
love
And for a
Needing
friendship,
stories.
for a loved one, it's your mankind and your people. Whether you're joking, or it's just sense of humor, man, it's personality. No matter what you talk about, it's like it means the most when you actually
But a
listen.
last-minute
You
hitch
actually
meant he
understand.
had to change
Don't
plans.
even go there,
He signaled instead
unless you
to a
know
British
you're
agent
going there
who walked past him
to pull a
carrying
can
a
of wood.
Harrods bag and eating a Mars
And
bar.
writing down, taking names, and taking it to the source. The right things, the right goodness.
The escape was on.
Okay,
Goodness.
okay, let's listen to
Take
this.
care now, y'all.
Listen, be quiet.
To reach the Finnish border
Bye.
using
Sit,
every
sit.
subterfuge in the
Listen,
book,
listen.
including going out
Listen.
on long jogs to shake off his KGB
Oh, I
tape.
can understand. I was trying to concentrate on being
When
When I
Oh,
was on my way to
That's
buy
something else.
ticket in advance, and when I had to shake off the surveillance, it was exciting.
Just come here. I
But
want
then,
you.
when I was leaving Moscow,
Okay, no,
I
do you know what
had
KGB
to
is?
run through the
I want to
woods,
teach you.
and then I
Come here, come
caught
here.
train to
Come here, listen,
Leningrad.
it's only for 1 minute.
And next day, when I was moving from Leningrad towards the Finnish border, I was the only man on the bus, and I said to the driver, "Stop." He looked at me with great suspicion, because they were all agents of the KGB in the border area.
I can't concentrate.
And I said, "I'm unwell, please let me out, I'm unwell." He let me out, and that lay-by, I waited for several hours for the cars. I was
Listen.
very nervous, and yet I felt a special excitement that I was participating in that tremendous adventure.
In some ways, the adventure ended well. Oleg Gordievsky was hailed in the West as a Cold War hero, but he paid a heavy personal price for being a double agent.
When I had to escape, I left the family, wife and 2 young children behind. I started to fight for them, and the KGB kept them as hostages. And when they were released in September 91, after the collapse of the communist regime, the children had forgotten me. And my wife, after the years of bitterness and humiliation as wife of a traitor, she refused to become my wife again. And we are now divorced.
Oleg Gordievsky now lives near London. In 2007, the Queen made him a Companion of the Order of St. Michael and St. George, the same honour once given in fiction to James Bond.
Simon Watts reporting. That story of the escape to the West is, of course, thrilling in itself, tinged with sadness on a personal level for Mr. Gordievsky, of course. But how much of an intelligence coup was it for the British Secret Services? Professor Christopher Andrew is a Cambridge historian and an expert on the post-war history of UK intelligence. Let's go back to the period before the actual defection or the escape from Russia. What sort of information was Gordievsky passing to the British when he was being run as a double agent?
He passed an incredible amount of very highly classified documents. He and I have actually published 2 volumes of them. And what they do is go from really high strategy, as was mentioned in the report. We simply did not realize how paranoid the Soviet leadership had become in response to Ronald Reagan talking about the evil empire. So his was the first warning that they really thought that we might be planning a nuclear first strike. So we've got the documents on those. And then at the other end, there's the relatively trivial but nonetheless fascinating material on where the dead letterbox is, that is to say, where Soviet agents left messages and picked them up in such exotic places as, for example, Brompton Oratory, the main Catholic church, not the cathedral, but the main Roman Catholic church in London. And by the way, the dead letterbox is just to the left of the side altar, which has a reproduction of Michelangelo's Pietà on it. The second pillar to the left.
Probably no longer in use. But what sort of secrets did he bring with him? Did he also have a sort of different category of information once he had fled?
Once he'd fled, of course, the documents dried up. But the most important documents begin in 1982. He begins working for us in 1974. He's recruited in Copenhagen. But then he has a posting back to the center, as they called it, in other words, KGB headquarters in Moscow, in 1978. And he's regarded as such an important agent that no attempt is made to run him while he's in Moscow. So then he turns up as a political intelligence officer in the London station of the KGB in 1982. And so what he produces then comes as a complete surprise, because he hands over the documents about the kind of investigations the KGB is supposed to be making in London to check on when and where the surprise nuclear attack is going to begin. I mean, it's rather depressing and comic at the same time, because even though the people in London understood London pretty well, the people back in Moscow are hopelessly ignorant. So, for example, they asked him to check on the price paid to British blood donors, in the belief that the closer you get to war under the free market system, the more expensive blood is going to be. Now, nobody in the KGB station in London dares to tell Moscow that actually British blood donors are unpaid, because it would have made them look pretty foolish.
Yeah, because you have to bear in mind that even though Britain may have been running Gordievsky for many years, the Russians were doing the same sort of thing, running double agents in Moscow.
The Russians were also, of course, running agents, but one of the problems for them is that all their agents were mopped up in London, because by the time that Oleg Gordievsky is appointed as the next head of the London station, he's in a position to know who all the existing agents are.
What about the impact of the defection of Gordievsky on the KGB? Because when it happened, when he fled, it did become public.
It was an extraordinary humiliation. Not merely was it the most extraordinary escape of the Cold War, and it wouldn't have happened without extraordinary planning on the British side and extraordinary bravery, which Oleg Gordievsky's account doesn't, because he's a modest man, does not fully recognize. But it's worth remembering that throughout he was under surveillance by the KGB. So this is the only ever escape from the Soviet Union of somebody who was under surveillance by the KGB. And the story of how he threw that surveillance off is simply extraordinary.
Professor Christopher Andrew, thank you very much indeed. We're going to go further back in time now, from the Cold War to the years of the Second World War, and a curiously liberating time for one select group of people in America. It's now 70 years since the first and only women's professional baseball league was established in the US, the All-American